one that saves me. And after all, you're my wonderwall.
Hello everybody, good evening and welcome into Dog Zone, where we look forward to Friday evening and a big night coming out of Hetrick, including the Group 1 Canal Classic and also the New Zealand Racing Series final over the 305 metres for the sprinters, headed up of course by Trojan Horse. Joining us as usual is the man from the CD, Mr. Mark Rozanowski. Rozzo, big night ahead at your, what is essentially your home venue I guess, on Friday night at Hetrick Raceway, and a big Group 1 there.
Yeah, just around the corner, 2.5 hours away, and I'll be taking you up there, Andy, on Friday to join me for this race, the fourth running of the Hetrick Classic. Of course, at this time of the year, we used to have the Wellington Cup, and even after Hutt Park closed down, we had the Wellington Cup for a number of years at Hetrick Raceway, but the last of those was in 2016, and in 2017, Thrilling Boris set up a Quinella for Karen Walsh in the first running in an astonishing 29.56 with splits, Andy, of 4.86 and 18.08, so just extraordinary way to start the Hetrick Classic. The following year, an epic battle. Alan Ablett, a nose over Big Time Paddy, who led. They were the two best dogs that season. Paddy, of course, Greyhound of the Year. And then last year, Nature's Gent backed up his Spion Rose Group 1 with the Hetrick Classic by half a length over Dinah Dave, who came from second last, 250 metres out. And on Friday, Andy, Dinah Dave into his 8th Group 1, 4 Group 1 seconds and a Group 1 third in Australia as well. Can he finally break through?
Time now to go runner by runner through the Group 1 Canal Construction Classic, starting off with the first of the coal team. Big Time Ocean comes up with the red rug, where she is yet to draw. She has tons of early speed, as we are about to see from her heat. She clocks a 4.98 early, 18.47 up the back, gets home in an 11.79 for a 30 and 26. Rozzo likely to be in front early. She's already Group 1 place, so we know she has the ability to foot it with ease.
Yes, that Group 1 placing was a second in the Spion Rose last month, and heading home there, albeit narrowly, Spring Falcon, M Green Park, Dinah Dave. And here she is last week, as you say. You mentioned those sectionals. In the Spion Rose, she was a fraction faster, 4.93, 18.29, and she was able to hang on for second there. She never looked like getting caught here last week. Sent out 60 to 1 in futures, through to the final now as a $10 shot. And it's a remarkable litter, this Fernando Bale, Sweet Ruby Jane, and there's one or two of them like Maple who like to come away from the rail. She hasn't drawn the rail yet, but she's run pretty good lines off box number 2. I'd actually prefer her sort of in the middle, but talking to Brendan Cole, he said, look, she can use the rail, no problem. The issue with her after the Spion Rose is she's whippet size like most of the litter, Andy, and once she gets knocked around, there's kind of no comeback for her, so she has to do this free wheel in front. She gets the opportunity to do that, but she does have Big Time Rod next to her, so she's going to have to be lickety-split early, clear rod immediately, then she can set up the pace, and there's an opportunity for her obviously to hang on for at least a placing like she did in the Spion Rose.
The question that needs to be asked, Rozzo, we know she's not very strong late in the piece, but she has that pace. How far in front of a Big Time Rod or a Spring Falcon would she need to be going home a Group 1 winner?
Well, if they were right on their game, and Spring Falcon, remember, has run home in an 11.23 on the track, and Ocean's looking at around, in the 11.70s to 80, then, yeah, it's going to need to be a margin, a really decent margin, and there's a number of strong dogs here, and you would think, Andy, that one of them is going to be in touch with her enough, because she could have 5 links on them, and there's a couple in there that are strong enough to run her down. But what a remarkable performance from her at this stage of her career to make a second Group 1 final.
One of those greyhounds with a little bit of strength is Big Time Rod, her kennel mate. He comes up with box number 2. He's beautifully drawn close to the rail. He was able to get the job done in a 30 and 14 in the heat last week when drawing up well close to the rail there from box number 2 as well, getting over top of the pace-making Hey Fernando. We'll take you back to have a look at that heat. Big Time Rod in the 2. Hey Fernando, the dog in the blue rug here of box number 4. Rozzo drew close to the rail, the key clearly into the first turn when he cuts in front of Oster Bale, but he was good thereafter and drawing close to the rail, certainly an aid for him.
Yeah, no question. Loves the rail. Like you say, he's strong. Hey Fernando did a tremendous job in front here. Now, Big Time Rod has Osterbale to his outside, and yes, Osterbale checked off the heels coming around the corner, but I still thought Osterbale had the opportunity here. Big Time Rod, determined effort to get up, 30 and 14. He has broken 30 seconds before this dog when right on his game. Well, he's not far off that at the moment. He had a wee time off the boil, but Andy, of course, he ran second in the futurity at Group 1 level on this track behind Thrilling Talk. And he's also been fourth in the New Zealand Derby and fifth in the Breeders' Stakes. It's his fourth Group 1 final. He's raced by Alan Weatherall, as is Big Time Ocean. Alan's had tremendous success racing dogs out of the Cole kennels, but there's something missing on the CV, and that's a Group 1 win for Alan with the Coles, and that could occur on Friday night with either the 1 or the 2. I think with the market, Big Time Rod clearly the better of the 2 chances, Andy, and if he was to jump on terms with Ocean, he might extinguish the chances of the kennelmate too.
Yeah, certainly is on the cards, there's no doubt about that. He looks a big chance, does Big Time Rod, come Friday night. On to our favourite now in Spring Falcon, the charge of the Gene and Dave Fahey team, and one of 2 charges for the South Island. He has a pretty handy record so far around Hetrick Raceway, including a second in the heat to Big Time Bruno. Comes up with box 3. He'll enjoy being close to the fence. We're going to take you back to have a look at what he's capable of. This is him winning at Wanganui back on the 22nd of November. Clocks say 29 and 95 here off the black and white stripes of box number 2. And Rozzo, things weren't exactly clean for him in this race. We know how fast he is. We know how strong he is. With a clean run, he looks really hard to hold out.
Oh, indeed. 11.23 home this night, and look at him just running away from, Class 4 field, but some reasonable dogs in there, as there always is. And last week, Big Time Ocean's home at 11.79, so already you're looking at that's a 7-length gap there. If those times would sort of equate out, and you never quite know. Look, clearly closer to the rail the better. Dave Fahey said box 3 was my 3rd choice, so better the 3rd choice than the 8th choice, and this race and market would have changed had he drawn wider than that. But with Big Time Rod liking to lean for the rail, with there being speed in the 1, he does look like he can park up into a nice spot. Andy, he did get into a nice spot last week. In fact, the perfect spot you would think to win his heat. But the issue for him was that Big Time Bruno got around the outside of She's For Us, and She's For Us just kept leaning in on him. And just the same as had happened to Big Time Rod actually the week before. Being inside of She's For Us close to the rail is not really a good place to be. And so it just took him an age to kind of clear that pocket. Shouldn't have any issues here, can't really see any issues for Spring Falcon, and therefore, if he's the one you like, he's probably the one you want to be on. Dave reports that he's well. Some colourful owners in this too, Andy, so it could be a very big night if a few owners show on Friday night.
Yeah, certainly could be a fair bit of noise and a few ales sunk after the last star, depending on who gets the job done, no doubt about that. That takes us on to the 3rd of 4 runners out of the Cole team, Big Time Bruno. He was an impressive winner of his heat, getting there by 4 3/4 lengths in a 30 and 11, which was the best time of the heat. Got to the back in a 5:02. Early in a 5:02 to the back in an 18:66, able to hold Spring Falcon comfortably. As we take you back to have a look at that, you're looking for the dog here in the black rug of box number 7, Spring Falcon in the green rug of box number 6. And Rozzo, he did map to get plenty of room early, and that's exactly how it panned out, and he was just too good for them on the night.
He was, and if you look at this field, he's drawn outside Spring Falcon, slow early, Big Time Rod press left, speed in the 1. Yep, Donna Dave can come left a bit, but the speed in the 7. But Andy, he could get a reasonable sort of a run, this dog. Now, hasn't he done a great job? Look, the kennel acknowledges he just needs some luck because he does lack that little bit of pace. But when things pan out from like they did there, then he's capable of that sort of run. He's won in a 30.07. He's gone very close to that, so he's about his best. And when he won in 30.07, he gunned down Big Time Ocean. Clearly a player at least to get on the dais, Andy, and we're going to know a long way from home how well he's going, obviously with the Buckwild team there in full force. Very much a player, I think. Trifectas and first fours would be very hard to leave Bruno out. And remember too, Andy, this is his restricted age year, so he could potentially have a few more Group 1 options later in the season. He could be a key player despite that lack of early speed.
He certainly could. He's a greyhound with real ability, is Big Time Bruno, when he gets a clear run early, which is key to his chances. And from that draw of box number 4, could just pan out for him into this first turn. That takes us on to the Craig Roberts prepared Diner Dave. He's the winner of $250,000 in stakes, close to it. And he's yet to win a Group 1, which is absolutely phenomenal. He was he was able to win his heat running over top of them late. Silent Dismissal getting home for second. We'll take you back to have a look at that now. This was the slowest of the heats, but the way he does it is impressive. Diner Dave in the pink rug of box 8. Silent Dismissal, the white rug here of box number 3. And Rozzo, I know we've come to expect incredible things from Diner Dave, but although there was no time on the board, this was just phenomenal.
Yeah, just a clever run, wasn't it? He knew what he had to do, and he sat there and he pushed his way through. And what I like here, Andy, is this, that ability to change sort of direction and just keep up the same pace, takes a wee clip even, but then just explodes clear. Okay, yep, he's beating a Class 2 dog home, but the Class 2 dog has a reputation, and on the basis of making a Group 1 final at start number 8, Silent Dismissal may be able to live up to that. Just a good thinking dog's performance. He came from second last to run a half-length second last year to Nature's Gent, one of 4 Group 1 seconds, twice, of course, in the New Zealand Cup, also in a Waterloo Cup, and he's made that final a couple of times. Third in the Group 1 Nationals in Perth. And he went 7 races without winning, and that's the longest drought that he's had in his career. But he came out and he nabbed that win. Comes up with box 5. Look, he's got a good record from 5. And he did break 30 seconds from box number 5 at Hetrick on Futurity Night of 2018, so we're not too far away from 2 years off that. What a story it would be, Andy. Probably the ultimate story in a field littered with them. There's going to be a tale to tell after this. I hope he can get some money. I'd love to see him get the top prize. Craig says he's well. You can ask for no more. He's got the visitors' draw again. He was unlucky in the Spion Rose. Let's hope he can be lucky in the Hetrick Classic this year.
Yeah, let's hope so. It would be certainly good to see him nail his first Group 1. He deserves one, there's no doubt about that. And although I haven't got him on top, gee, we'll have everything crossed early that he gets a clean run and we can see the best form of Diner Dave with a clean run, and hopefully he can nail that first Group 1 victory. That takes us on to the Angela Turnwald prepared Silent Dismissal. He's just a Class 2 greyhound lining up for start number 8. He was second in that heat in behind Diner Dave. Rozzo, he comes up with a wide draw. He's a little bit of a surprise qualifier for mine. I didn't think he'd make his way through, but gee, he was good last week, albeit in the slowest heat. And it's a big effort from the team to get him to qualify for a Group 1 at such an early stage of his career.
He went a really good race, Andy, and he ran past some good dogs, and you could argue there were a couple up front there that were a little disappointing. But he's done what they've asked him to do here, and that's perform on the biggest stage. That's what he's been brought here for. And he's doing it very early in his time, as you say, at start 8. Now, he's raced by some of the members who were victorious last year with Nature's Gent, including the bookie, Kevin Gushlow. Kevin Brady's in there. And Kevin, of course, had marvellous success over the past couple of seasons at Group 1 level with Nature's Gent and Diddley and Company out of the Angela Turnwald barn. Big stretch to think he could win this race, particularly off box number 6, and the kennel certainly acknowledges that. It's going to be tough the way this draw has worked out for Silent Dismissal, but we'll be mapping his progress with a lot of interest. Andy, has he taken that leap now from not being able to place in a couple of Class 2s on the track to being a Group 1 contender and working his way through the grades? 2 very good wins at the Manawa too, where he pulled out really good margins over the concluding stages. Haven't quite seen that of him at Hetrick. And in qualifying for the Group 1, he's only run around the 30 and 50 mark. But he's earned his spot in there, and that means you're a chance. And he's certainly a dog of the future.
He certainly is. Gary and Sandra Fredrickson will pull the black rug onto their charge. Hey, Fernando, he comes up with box number 7 after trying to steal an all-the-way victory in the heat. Nailed late in the piece by a small margin by Big Time Rod. Rozzo, he comes up with a wide draw. That's probably not the end of the world for him. And the way he went in the heat, he's probably a rough place chance here.
And he was really game in the heat, wasn't he? And I'll just repeat everything I said when he won a heat of the Spion Rose and went into the final there. And I tell you what, the Spion Rose, he was there for a long way, Andy. He ultimately finished 6th. But of course, he had some really strong dogs finishing over the top, the likes of Spring Falcon and Grand Park and Dinah Dave. So it wasn't a bad run. He was there for a long way in that race, and to get him to qualify for another one for owner Javin Brown, tremendous performance from Gary and Sandra Fredrickson. And just situated where the dog is, Andy, he's the speed on the outside of the track, and Dinah Dave's there in 4. And there's not electric speed in this race outside of Big Time Ocean off the inside. So an opportunity for Fernando to get forward in this race, which puts him into the equation. And Andy, I thought he did a really good job to hold out Osterbale, who's a very good dog, as we know, in that heat, and to take his spot qualifying. So he's hard-earned, he's into his second Group 1, and maybe he can get a bigger slice of the pie this time.
The fourth and final charge for the Cole team comes up with box number 8. His name, Big Time Tank. He was able to run into second in behind the Big Time Ocean, beaten just a tick over 2 lengths in that 30 and 26. Rosso, it wasn't a bad effort from him. Comes up with a wide draw, and that will certainly make things interesting for him into the first turn.
Described by the kennel as a nice little professional, and 6 months ago you would not have thought that he would contest a Group 1. In fact, in August, Andy, he'd gone back to Class 2, and he's sort of gradually been climbing his way back. Now he's a little mate to the ill-fated Big Time Pete, very fast dog who's got the track record for 410 metres at Manawatu. Also in that litter, Big Time Kiss. He's got a bit of strength about him, Big Time Tank, and of late, Andy, he's been running really good races sort of just in behind. But out in box 8 in a field like this, there are faster dogs early, obviously, and there are stronger dogs turning for home. But well done to the BBC syndicate and to Big Time Tank going through here into this final, and the fourth runner for the Cole team, but very definitely the outsider of those. Andy, there's that market again. Just note 2, Osterbale, Youtherbale on the ballot. Both would be realistic chances if they got back in. Youtherbale was unbelievable, recovering to run 3rd in the heat. Worth noting, Andy, in the heats, Osterbale ran 30.19, made him, if it had been done on times, he would have been the 4th fastest qualifier, so he just ended up in the wrong heat. And Youtherbale, an unbelievable recovery from a first bend check in that race. Now, that was a race that Big Time Lila broke down. Happy to report on her, Andy, that she has been saved, and they will use her in the breeding barn, Lila. And of course, last month in the Spion Rose, we had a scratching. The number 9 came in, and the number 9 won. He's all shine for young Sam Lizelle. Could it happen again? Well, I doubt it. I doubt there'll be a scratching. But if either of those dogs got in, I tell you what, they'd shake the race up.
Yeah, they certainly would add plenty of interest into it, no doubt about that. Right, Rosso, time to put 4 numbers on a bit of paper. Where are you leaning in the Canal Construction Classic?
Andy, you'll find it hard to go past the favourite, and at 2.8 with Spring Falcon, I think he's certainly worth a play at that, and I'm sure there'll be people amongst the ownership there that absolutely will. Jean and Dave Fahey Group 1 record just stands for itself. Got Big Time Rod in for second because he's in the right zone and he's in the right box. He's close enough and he can follow some speed there with his kennel mate Big Time Ocean to the inside. Big Time Bruno I found hard to leave out, Andy, because I can see him getting a reasonable run like he did last week, and back half of his race is very good too. Didn't want to run without Dinah Dave, but I left him out of 4 last week, Andy, and maybe that was the magic potion that managed to see him winning his heat and coming through. But I hate to put him in for 4th because I do think he's a realistic chance of winning. Now that's leaving out speed, Big Time Ocean and Fernando. So how did you play it?
Yeah, I found it hard and behind Spring Falcon, to be fair. I put him clearly on top. I think the $2.80 a playable price around him. Big Time Rod in for second. Think he's the greyhound who's drawn to give him the biggest threat. Big Time Ocean off the inside with that little bit of early speed she does have. If she can freewheel in front, then she's a definite place chance. And then Big Time Bruno, like you, Rosso, I thought he was a chance with a decent draw into the first turn. So 3, 2, 1 and 4 for me. I thought I'd do the right thing and leave Dave out, and then he can probably go home a Group 1 winner for the first time in his career. Right, it's now time to move on to the second feature coming out of Hetrick Raceway on a Friday evening. This is the New Zealand Racing Series final over the 305 metres, dominated by the Cole team and the Big Times. Trojan Horse at $1.70, Big Time Kiss $3.50, Big Time Banjo $8.50. Rosso, before we speak markets, we need to speak the Cole team, and although they have big numbers to qualify essentially the entire field, I know the Fredricksons now have a couple of these, but they've bred all 10 of these greyhounds. That is some kind of feat.
Had that highlighted at the top of my page, Andy, because you just can't ignore that. Now, on Monday, they trained 10 of 12 winners at the Manawa 2. Domination in any sort of field of sport, and particularly racing. We see it in harness racing at the top level. And even thoroughbreds, you know, there's a couple of stables that are usually quite dominant at the top of the table. But there's a bar to be set by somebody, and that needs to be met by the others who contend. And while domination is difficult for others in the game, and we need everybody in the game that wants to make a play, a living, or at least a good pastime out of it, we need that. But I think we have to acknowledge the feats of the Coal Kennels. The 10 winners on Monday, Andy, they were all New Zealand bred. We're not talking about them flying in dogs that are unbeatable and just making their money back. We're talking about dogs that they have carefully bred and then reared and then broken in and then trained, going through the grades and setting the benchmark at the moment at the top level. And here, as you say, they've bred all 10 in this New Zealand Racing Series, which is remarkable. I do think, Andy, the way that things have worked out here, that I won't be calling a big-time victory, I'll be calling a Trojan horse victory. And I think the 1.7 is pretty good the way this field is drawn, not disrespecting other dogs with great ability in this, like Big Time Kiss.
100% agree with you there, Rosso. The way this field's drawn up, he looks awfully hard to beat, this Trojan horse. But let's go through these three heats that were held last Friday. The first of them taken out by Big Time Kiss. She was an impressive winner off the black rug here of box number 7, Away Fair. She's able to drive around and get the lead from Big Time Jasmine, and from there, she was too strong, Rosso.
Yes, now this is interesting. She doesn't race a lot over the 305 metres at Hetrick. In fact, this was just the third time. Andy, we can see her sometimes come out under the lids at Manawa 2 and really post some very fast times there. She hasn't sort of made that beginning yet over the 305, but she hasn't had much experience, and she's going, you know, back to back from there to there and not going to anywhere else in between. So maybe she's a chance to do that. Look, she's right next door to Big Time Banjo, which is a real problem. Banjo can run some really good sectionals early, and of course runs notably out. And that's the issue for Big Time Kiss. With a flying start, which I don't expect from Kiss, maybe clears Banjo. That won't be easy. But even not, and even with an average beginning, Banjo can move out across Kiss. Kiss can still get back into this race. Certainly a player. I've put her in for second, but if you're on her, you'll be holding your breath early, Andy, because the 4-dog's going to be a real issue.
Certainly will be nervous times, but as you said, has the ability to clear him, and if she does, obviously a big chance of getting into the minors here behind Trojan Horse. On to the second of the three heats, this one taken out by Big Time B. She's in the green rug of box 6, Big Time Share in the black of 7, and Big Time MJ, the gold rug of box number 5. Rosso got the job done at double figure odds here. Was a fairly decent surprise for mine, but gee, she was good.
17 and 52. It was a tenth better than her fastest. Didn't completely surprise the kennel, but it was second back from a season, and Brendan Cole thinking that the season may have improved her. She had one run where she never really got into the race properly at Palmerston North, so we didn't really get a guide on that. Then she's come out and done that. She's been gifted the run under Big Time Share. They've reversed rugs, and I reversed the rugs during that race for the call, Andy, so they've really got me good here in the final by putting Share in the green and B in the black. Long odds top 3, I think B's the value in this race, $3.40.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Got her in the mix as well. And after that effort, you kind of have to, really. Time to move on to the last of the three heats. This one taken out by Big Time Banjo. He's in the white rug of box 3. Big Time Bronx in the black rug of box 7. And your favourite at $1.70, he's in the gold rug here of box number 5. And Rosso, to be fair, Banjo was too good. Trojan Horse, probably a lucky qualifier, but the way they've drawn, he looks really, really hard to beat.
Oh, look, Eddie, watch the head on here. Big Time Leo in the green rug. We were sort of hoping that Trojan Horse would outjump him. Well, that didn't happen. Leo is as hard a railer as I've known, and he just doesn't stop. And he's got Trojan Horse twice there, and he's nearly put him onto the rail. Now, for him to be able to stand up, run third, and still run 17.69, I thought was absolutely outstanding from Trojan Horse. Group 2 winner Dash for Cash not so long ago, 17.28. Slow Trapper in box number 1. Banjo drawn 4. It just works out perfectly. With an average beginning, Trojan Horse should be winning this race. With a fast beginning, it's just a case of getting the time. There's other really good sprinters in here. And as I've mentioned, Kiss, I've feel's got a fast 3:05 time in her at some point in time, Andy, but I would take the 1.7 while I can on Trojan Horse because that was a really good effort. Banjo, incidentally, 689, 690, can sort of do that on its air, it seems, those early splits. And then even if it managed to lead Trojan Horse, though, it's just going to give Trojan Horse the opening, obviously, Andy. So I think the two clearly on top. Put the Kiss in for second, but it's all about what happens with the 4 early and the 5 and B. As I say, if you want a top 3 bet at $3.40 at the moment, I'm not suggesting she wins, but 17.52, second back, draws similar again, a chance. I know who you're going on top at.
Yeah, 100% agree with you in terms of big time B there, Rozzo, but with the horse on top, it's impossible to go past him. And like you, I think that $1.70 is a fairly shoppable price. Big time Banjo, I thought he was good, and the middle draw obviously perfect for him if he can make one of his better beginnings. Big time B, the obvious value, and Jasmine, the other greyhound drawn to get some room with Banjo with his wantingness to get out wide. So I thought she might be able to get into the first 4 thin end. Right. Time to move on to the Dog Zone dogs to follow. Firstly, a look back to last week and how we fared. Blake went none from 3 with 1 minor placing. I went none and none from 2. I think I might have run a 4th if I was lucky. And Rozzo getting 2 home from 5. Rozzo, lucky for you because both Blake and I a big swing and quite a big miss.
Yeah, Andy, look, I had a few throws and a couple of misses there. Nina started 2.2. She was very good in that distance race. I don't think there was any value in there, and she closed at 1.9 there. So, getting a couple of homes okay. But, Andy, I'm shocked there. You had a couple of misses, but I know that during the week you tipped me a couple of good winners, and I know that it's hard because later in the week, we get to sit down and really study the races. We have to do this early in the week and come up with what we can. So I've gone for another handful on Friday night, Andy. Race 2, number 2, Big Time Frosty. I know she's not jumping that well, but she can punch back into that race. Simply Smooth I went with last week to get some bushfire funds in. Well, that didn't work for Simply Smooth, but back to Hetrick, I think I like. Big Time Tina's fresh up over the 3:05 for the first time. I think that race is going to work out okay for her. Oster Bale, drawn outside, she's for us the key there, although there's a stack of pace in that race. And Trojan Horse, I think we just take the 1.7. And then with Philippa today, she's back in after a holiday. And the Bridge Brigade, at Cambridge for their 10 race card. We're going to tip half the card. Great. Race 2, number 6, Salenci. 4, Stay Rich in race 3. Botany Wayne in race 6, number 6. That's got a nice ring. Race 9, number 2, Key Sale to deliver this week. And Thrilling Talk, race 10, number 1. Shame not to see him in the Group 1 final on Friday, but he stumbled at the start, slipped at the start last week, and that was him. But he can make amends on Thursday.
He certainly comes up with a draw to use. Here's where Blake's looking Thursday at Cambridge. Big Time Jackson off the red, looking to lead them all off the way to Addington on Thursday. Knocker Know-How. He comes up with box number 3 in the second, and at Wentworth Park on Friday night. Blakey going across Tasman. Simon Told Helen going around in the Derby, looking like a big chance across there. Here's where I'm looking, all at Addington on Thursday. Only the one meeting this week for me to select from. But the last 3 races, I think the Red Rug could be going home a winner in all 3 of them. Mitch and Becky downgraded and dangerous after a luckless last start effort. Gold Star Winter in fine form and tricky. It doesn't look very tricky for her. It looks pretty easy, in fact. And although she'll be short on, take those short odds and get some multis or something going with her. Right, that's all we've got time for here on Dog Zone. Rozzo, thanks for joining us once again and looking forward to Friday night.
Yes, indeed, Andy, you'll be joining me for those 2 feature races. Quite a nice undercard. And one thing I want to mention on the undercard, Andy, is She's a Ripper coming up to the scene of the Group 2 Dash for Cash win and up against Sir Dougie. And well done to Jean and Dave Fahey getting She's a Ripper back on track and winning in fast time last week, Andy. I bet against her to do that. It was an amazing training performance in my opinion, and taking on Sir Dougie this week should be a highlight on the undercard of Hetrick Classic night.
Yeah, it certainly will be. There's no doubt about that at all. We'll be back next week here on Dog Zone with a full review of what takes place on a Friday evening. But until then, happy punting.